That's the pipeline expansion that we're talking about. But in order to actually get the compression for those pipelines, they are also proposing compressor station upgrades, is what they're calling them. So that's where Easton Compressor Station, that's where we're here tonight to talk about. And then also further up the pipeline in Pike County, Pennsylvania, there's the Milford Compressor Station. And they're also proposing new compressor stations at that particular compressor station. So that's a little bit of the overarching theme of what's actually, why we're here tonight. Alex, how's it going over there? Sitting down? Okay. Yep.
Can I have one clarification? Our compressor station, which is going to be upgraded, it has 20-inch lines that it feeds it and leaves that area.
Correct.
But they're supposed to put laterals into the 36-inch Penn East pipeline, right?
Yep.
I haven't seen a map yet that shows where those laterals are that goes from that compressor station east,
Right.
or excuse me, goes west to pick up the 36-inch pipeline to provide pressure support.
So for those who don't know what the gentleman's referring to, the Penn East pipeline is another recently proposed pipeline project that Tara also mentioned. And the Penn East pipeline would stretch from Luzerne County, Pennsylvania, all the way down to New Jersey as well, and it's supposed to connect up with Columbia's system. And because they have not yet entered the, they haven't finalized all of their points, they haven't actually showed on a map where they would connect up. They've said they will be connecting up, but they haven't actually showed where the connection points would be, as far as I've seen.
But obviously it has to come through Northampton County because it has to get somewhere within the proximity of the expanded compressor station.
Exactly. So if you go to Penn East's website, they have a map of the entire route, and you can see where it goes in relation to Easton.
But I can't find the laterals. But I guess what's
They don't have the laterals in there yet.
is that the way Columbia proposed this enhancement, as it were, the upgrading of the compressor station here in Northampton County, it really is becoming a compressor station for the Penn East pipe system. Because if you take a look at the capacity of 2 20-inch lines come in there, you couldn't possibly use the 18,000 horsepower for that gas that those lines
So
would
it will be a different system. Penn East is proposing that they will have their own compressor station in Kidder Township, Carbon County, and so as far as I've seen, it will not be. The Easton will not be providing compression for Penn East. They're different systems, and the question though is because the compressors that they're proposing for Easton, they're proposing to run them as low load. And what that means is that they're saying that we'll be running them at 40% of capacity, approximately. So the remaining question is, why are they proposing a facility that's much larger than they need? And what it appears is that farther down the line, then they would have the available compression in order to power additional pipeline infrastructure that we put in, and they would have that compression already available at Easton. Are there other questions as we're getting set back up?
What's the password for your Wi-Fi in here?
There's no Wi-Fi in here.
There's a Wi-Fi here.
Oh, it's not?
2282 1738. 2282 1738. Yep.
No, there you go.
All right.
So I'll just, are there any other questions about the overview? Any other some more questions to that?
There's some questions over here. Do you want to fill them?
Yeah, I'll fill the question right now and
Okay.
see if we can. So that's softball for me. Anyway, Columbia has said they are not aware of any PCBs on site, but they were used for the equipment prior to 1977. The existing compressors were installed in 1971. How do we force them to disclose PCBs? And will we be exposed during demolition? I think that's come up in Milford. Again, old equipment used polychlorinated biphenyls, and that's included also as asbestos was also built. Buildings and things were used then. In Milford, they've addressed both of those in the environmental assessment, and they did not address that in the Easton compressor, and I know you've looked a lot into it. Do you want to talk about PCBs?
Well, one of the things about PCBs that they're kind of like brushing over is that most of your chemicals that, they talk about as far as emissions, they talk about parts per million, when your toxicity. PCBs are classified toxic with parts per billion, which is highly toxic. In 1985, I believe, there was uncovered that some of the gas companies were storing chemicals, especially PCBs, on some of their compressor stations throughout Pennsylvania. At that time, Columbia said that we're not aware of any PCBs being stored at Easton, and that was it. That was all they said. Nobody investigated it. The government said, okay. When they came out with their application for this compressor, or the whole system, in Milford, they admitted those compressors were built in 1955, I believe, or 51, and they admitted they have PCBs there. When we asked them how they're going to control, the dispersal with the demolition, they said, oh, we're going to hire competent contractors. When we asked for a specific plan, they said, well, we'll come up with a plan when we're ready to do it. So they're sort of brushing over this. They've said that we're not aware of any PCBs on the Easton site. They're not saying that they don't exist in the existing compressors that they're going to demolish. They're just saying they're not aware of them on the site. And I think this is something that we need to call their hands on it. We need to have, and what we're asking them in the DEP, these chemicals are also air volatile and also in the soil, and they don't go away. We're asking with Milford, we asked them to monitor or come up with some monitoring before construction, during construction, and after construction. Here in Easton, because they're saying they're not aware that they're here, nobody's bringing it up. They're not. So we have brought it up. We filed comments with DEP, and we need to, I believe at this point, we need to raise awareness we have with our township supervisors, because of that's part of the building permits that they have to get.
And you're Greg, right? Can you just introduce yourself to everybody? Because Greg Lotorto, Alex Lotorto,
My name's
everybody
Greg
should
Lotorto.
really know the connection here, because you guys have really been through the mill in Milford trying to fight the pipeline up there, and I think it's important for people to know who you are as well.
My name's Greg Lotorto. Alex is my son, or I'm his dad. We've been involved in fighting the Tennessee gas pipeline and the Columbia gas pipeline in Milford for a few years now. We've educated ourselves, and our biggest thing we ask you here today is to get people out. We've been doing this in Milford for several years now, and there's still people who don't know about the gas pipelines, compressors, and everything else. Once they hear something, then all of a sudden they notice it. We have it in our papers almost every week. We go to township supervisors meetings every whenever they have them. And this is what if things are going to happen here, it's going to be meetings like this, and then going home and talking to your neighbors. And that's really why we're here for Milford, because we're all in this together.
Exactly.
All right, so we're back up. Sorry for the technical difficulties there. So why pipelines? There's a tremendous amount of production right now in Pennsylvania, and companies are trying to get it to where there's actually a demand for the gas. You look at liquefied natural gas prices around the world. In the United States, actually, gas prices are very low compared to overseas. There was just recently approved an LNG, liquefied natural gas, export facility in Cove Point, Maryland. There are also discussions of Philadelphia exporting LNG, New Jersey, Boston. These ports are coming online, and they're coming online very quickly. So here are two maps of Columbia's pipelines in the area. On the right hand, it's a regional map. Blue is Columbia Gas, and on the left is Columbia's lines coming through the Allentown, Easton area. The red dots in the middle is where Easton Compressor Station, and the red dot at the top is where Milford Compressor Station is. And the expansion, the east side expansion, is